Moto community, how the hell are you? Yes, already got to get demonetized. I'm going to start off with a quote. Do not spoil what you have now by desiring what you have not, because what you have now was once among the things you only hope for. It's philosophy. It's by Empiricus, and it's a life lesson that we all go through. Anything that we go through, whether it's racing or just professional life, we have shit that we have to get through. And this interview just came out of thin air, and I'm glad it did. Damon Huffman was one of my childhood heroes. I grew up watching him bang bars with Jeremy McGrath, Steve Lamson, Brian Hughes, you name it, he's done it. And he's a legend of the sport, and I really would eventually like to see the sport just go freaking vertical so that there's so many people involved that could continue to make money outside of something that they love to do, especially somebody that was so influential in the progression of motorcycle racing. And I hope you guys enjoy this interview. And hey, make sure you go send some love to Damon Huffman and his boys at Huffman Bros. Subscribe to their shit and keep watching it, share it, like it, do everything else, keep it WFO. Guys, this one, I don't get starstruck often, but talking to Damon Huffman, man, brings back memories.
The finish has proved to be tricky so far tonight.
Out in front, it's Damon Huffman and his teammate Jeff Emig with Jeremy McGrath. 5 bike links back in third. Then it's Larry Ward. Steve Lamson's finest start of the season. And then
welcome back, Riders fans. I got a special guest. I'm a little starstruck here because I've been watching this guy kick effing ass since I was a toddler. And we've got the one, the only, Damon Huffman. How you doing, Damon?
I'm great. Hey, good to be on. Thank you for having me.
Dude, it's a pleasure. It's a funny story how we ended up connecting is because you ended up messaging me saying that you were getting scammed by my alter ego as far as Johnny Crypto. And I was over here going like, oh shit, I can't have one of my heroes being scammed out of money from somebody that's not even me, as far as I got a lot of scam bot accounts that Facebook won't delete. So I do apologize for that.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, and it kind of hooked me in a little bit. Then I'm like, this is kind of weird. If this guy is, really covering Supercross and motocross, I think he would know me, but the verbiage in that little message was like, oh, you've been chosen. It was strange. So I thought it was kind of funny, and I took a screenshot and sent it out to you. Then you got in touch.
Yeah, my heart dropped a little bit because I was like, oh my God, here's one of my childhood heroes that's getting screwed over from something that I can't control. And what I've told most people is just start asking moto questions, and usually the bot will be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what happened. And but here we are now.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, Damon, and I do appreciate you taking some time out. To get started, I wanted to ask you, because you are a 2-time 125 champ. You've won multiple races. You've won some races over in Europe. You were doing some ISDs as far as off-road stuff. What did you enjoy the most? Was it 250s or 125s?
Well, I would probably say my 2 125 years in 94 and 95 were probably the most fun. Working with Tony Berluti as my mechanic at Suzuki, and to just have that feeling of I am like the man, I'm the guy to beat, and going out there and just executing and winning and going to the starting line and just knowing I'm going to win. That was just the best feeling ever. I had a pretty good run there for a while. And even early in my 250 career, things started off really good. And I was creeping towards that. I'm going to beat Jeremy. I was feeling it inside, and I just had a little string of injuries that kind of prevented that from happening.
Was that when you broke your leg?
Well, in 96, I was kind of like the hot new rider coming up to the 250 class at the time. And I had 4 second place finishes behind Jeremy, and had a real epic ride out of Seattle with him. And I just felt it inside, like it's a matter of time. I'm going to beat this guy. And then I kind of did what Malcolm Stewart just did. I don't know if it was mine was a neutral. I clearly hit neutral on an on-off section and went straight over the bars and tore my ACL. So that kind of took me out the rest of Supercross. And then I came back pretty strong in 97 and actually won Atlanta. And I was kind of regaining that same feeling again. And then I broke my lower leg doing outdoor testing on a 125. So then the following year is when I broke my femur. So it was 3 years, 3 pretty major injuries, and that really kind of set me on a path of, all right, I don't want to get injured anymore. You know, what do I need to do here? Then it was more, you know, I was really, that threat of winning was kind of gone, but I was more of a top 3, occasionally top 5, top 10 guy.
How old were you at the time in 97, 98?
Let's see. I believe I was, right there, 21, 22, around that age.
With being injured, was it hard to keep your team happy, or did you feel any pressure as like potentially maybe losing your ride because the results weren't quite there because of injuries, just circumstances?
Great question. You know, your first couple times getting injured, I would always come back for the outdoor season. And I think what kept me going was I always came back and won again. Whether it was an outdoor race or even when I broke my femur in 98, I came back and won the U.S. Open in 98 at the end. And I would always get up to speed and, win some races over in Europe. So I would be coming into the season fresh and looking good. But yeah, after like the third year of being injured, you can kind of feel like, you know, something needs to change. Number one, I can't keep this being injured, constantly. It's not doing me any good. And the team, I think, is starting to feel it as well. It's a tricky situation because you need to perform. Mm-hmm. It's all about performing.
With that, sorry, Damon, go for it, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. You know, if you're not performing, they're going to find someone else who can. So that's pretty the harsh reality of our sport. You know, it's gnarly like that.
Small little segue with what happened with Forkner this last couple of weeks. What do you think Mitch Payton is feeling like over there? Because Forkner really hasn't come back to win. He's come back to get close, but then he gets taken out again.
Yeah, that I felt bad for him. I know all the preparation and that goes into it, on and off the bike, and to just have it snatched away, like not even get down the start straight away. Man, that's brutal. But as a team owner, it's so tough, man. Especially when there's younger kids coming up that are hungry and want it. I don't know how many years Austin's been at it, but This was a pretty heavy blow to his career, that's for sure.
You think maybe it's his last chance? Not trying to put words into your mouth, Damon, because I know that's a loaded question.
I'm not sure if he's going to be back for any outdoor races, but he really needs to come back and just perform, get some races under his belt. And then, of course, if he has the speed, the desire, the stamina, I would give him another shot, whether it's the pro circuit team or another team, but he definitely has the talent and is one of the guys for that class.
Would you, if you had a manager hat on, would you be saying, hey, we need to just finish a season healthy? Or is it one of those things where you need to be healthy, but you also need to be winning?
Yeah, it's you have to have the performance. At least some podiums, some top fives consistently, and I think he can get that no problem in Supercross. But you're paid to win, and that's what the factories want. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure how old he is, but I would think if he's going to get back to it and get on that bike again, he can definitely get back on the podium. And if he stays healthy, he's definitely a winner in Supercross.
Well, thank you for your insight on that, Damon. A couple questions that I had is that, if you don't mind answering, and if you don't, you can always plead the fifth, of course. But coming up, was it difficult to get onto a factory ride? Were there like agents involved, or was it just purely performance where, Suzuki came up to you and was like, hey, I think you would be good on our team. We want to sponsor you. Here's a contract, and boom, let's go racing.
For me, I think it was my amateur track record, always kind of being at the top of my class year after year. My progression was, at 15, I moved up to the big bikes and rode the intermediate class and pretty much won, at Ponca, Loretta Lynn's, the Texas GNC back in the day. I was always winning. So the following year, it was, expected I was going to move up to the pro class. I remember back then I was with Team Green, and they wanted to, when I turned pro, they wanted me to go to some of those ultra crosses and ride still like the amateur nationals as an A rider. But it was Suzuki that kind of came along and just offered me a little more freedom. Just, here's some bikes, parts, turn pro, do the West Coast Supercross Series, and we'll go from there. And I had a couple top 5 finishes and actually whole shot at a couple races. And I think I just showed as a rookie that I had potential. Then in 93 is when the factory ride came about. But yeah, I had no agent, nothing like that. Looking back on it now, I wish I did. It was just my old man and me, and we, I was just a racer, and my dad was my mechanic, and he just wanted the best for me, obviously. But I think a year or two into my pro career, having an agent would have probably would have helped.
Gotcha. Yeah. Things definitely have progressed in a way as far as it becoming more of a business. Did you think that amateur racing back in the day was I guess to reword this, do you think it's more of a business today than it was back then, where factories are spending much more money on talent coming up than kind of waiting for guys to get into the actual professional class, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think probably the way I did it and a lot of others before me, I mean, we were going to Loretta Lynn's and sleeping in a tent, camping there at the track. And it was really just kind of grassroots style, driving across the country in my dad's van and
no giant
doing it.
Class A motorhome?
No, it was a van and pulling a trailer and, breaking down along the way. That was kind of all part of it. But I haven't really been around the amateur scene in a long, long time. But especially now with the motorcycles, the riding, it's not like, your dad can just rebuild the top end or just do all the wrenching on a little two-stroke engine rather easily. I know things are more complicated now, but I got to imagine there's just more money behind it to perform at the top level, even at the amateur ranks right now.
Yeah, I think we're in a weird transition phase where it's becoming incredibly expensive to continue to go racing at even a elite amateur level. Not saying that people can't do it, just overall. Your family, maybe sort of a personal question, but did racing become stressful on home life at all? Or, you and your dad, when you guys turned professional, was there... How did that work? Because I know just personally with myself, things got difficult once I got the pro card, because then we were acting more of like a business, and it was hard to have a father-son relationship when we were both working our butts off, and it didn't work out as well as I wanted to. Sorry, it's a weird subject for me to talk about, so I just wanted to ask you, Damon.
It's a very tricky transition when you go from the little boy and your dad's just helping you to now you're getting a pretty good salary, and especially when I had my own mechanic assigned to me. Then also, you have team managers and suspension guys and an engine guy, more of a crew around you. That was hard for my dad to just kind of let that go, which I understand it more now. At the time, I think as a guy in his late teenage years and I wanted to like break away from my dad, and my dad still wanted control. So it's a very tricky line there. But, my dad was pretty hard on me for sure growing up. He pushed me just a lot of, I think about the things he used to do with me, and I couldn't really imagine doing that with my kids. So I remember going riding, and he would always make me run in my full riding gear, boots and everything, out the dirt road to the main road. And, he pushed me hard, but as you get older, I just wanted him to be more of a dad and just support me, just by saying, hey, I'm proud of you, son, or, great job. But my old man he was relentless. I would, even take the win win a race and he would, hey, what happened on the start? You came out like in, fifth place or whatever. He was just relentless. So that wore on me as I, going through all my racing years. And, but looking back on it now, I really, I appreciate everything he did for me.
Yeah, it sounds, it's interesting. I don't know if it's something to do with this sport or because it's such a one-person sport where you're the guy that gets all the media time and everybody's coming to you and you're the one guy on the track, but there's so much involved behind that person and there's so much struggle and so much it's always interesting to me when you see a guy that just all of a sudden starts winning and you're going, wow, it happened overnight. But in reality, there's a decade of just sweat and tears behind what happened that you don't see.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had a tough dad. However, it sounds like you also respect some of the things that he did in order to turn you into the man you are today. And then, as a young father myself, I see some of the stuff that my parents did, and now I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose to do them a little bit differently with my kids. And I think that's part of, I guess, maybe even becoming an adult, and so, Damon, I resonate with you a little bit. As far as getting back to racing, did you feel like you were more of a 125 guy, or did the 250 suit you better? You just had some bad luck on the 250.
Definitely, I would say the first part of my career, I was a 125 guy. I think my riding style and just being smooth and carrying speed and it was so crucial just to nail every shift at the right, second, especially in Supercross. And also, I think early on in my career, it was beneficial to be a little taller. Still back in the early 90s, the bikes weren't that great. So being a little taller, helped me. But I really liked the 250 two-stroke I'm talking about here. But I think honestly, maybe just being a little stronger would have helped me out. But man, at times I felt so good on the 250, and I did have a handful of great races, but I think it was more the injuries later in my career that just kind of hindered me, just held me back a little bit.
Two questions to follow up on that. A, how tall are you? And B, how heavy were you when you went to the 250s, if you remember at all?
Yeah, I'm 6'1". As far as weight, I don't remember exactly, but I want to say I was probably like around 160, probably back in my, probably even a little bit lighter as I was like 17, 18, 19, but probably around 160. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. I know. It was a while ago. And the reason why I'm asking is you were saying that if you were a little bit stronger. So do you think, because I know like when I was trying to race professionally, I was 125 pounds on a 450, and towards the end, like now I'm a $150 and I can ride almost better than what I could despite some of the injuries I have. And I'm like, dang it, I missed a big opportunity when I was younger by not being strong enough. So do you think that maybe being 170, 180, like a Sexton these days, as far as being a tall guy, and AC, who is about 180, would have helped?
Hard to say. Yeah, I might have even been, 150 pounds back on a 252 stroke back then. I don't know exactly, but my riding thrived on just flowing on the track, having a good rhythm, timing everything perfect. I was never like a basher or just slamming into things. I didn't ride that way. So when I was like firing on all cylinders, my timing was perfect and everything was just super smooth. And sometimes I had that feeling and other times I didn't, which kind of blows me away. A guy like Carmichael or Tomac or like these real elite guys, it really didn't matter what the conditions were. They're still the man to beat, and that always kind of stood out towards me. I was like, I had certain tracks that I just flowed on and felt great. Then if I struggled on the track, my result was probably going to struggle a little bit. But and I did a lot of my riding and training was all on the bike. I had no problem doing 20-lap motos in Supercross or 35-minute motos outdoors. That's what I trained and did, every day I rode. But I think just a little overall, just more strength could have been a benefit as well.
Well, a legend on the sport, you're a legend in the sport, and comparing yourself to Carmichael and Tomac is 1,000% accurate. And setting your motorcycle up, if you were flowing a little bit more, did your mechanics set it up to not have as snappy of a motor, or did you have the gearing that was a little bit taller so it wasn't as aggressive? And was your suspension the main important thing to help keep you flowing? Or like how is it that you rode the bike? Did you always have a gear up? Did you feather the clutch a bunch into corners, or?
Well, I don't know. For me, that was just like my natural riding style. I think the way I stood on the bike and had my balance point on the bike, it was the bike kind of doing all the work, and I was just in perfect harmony with the bike. I liked a little bit of a, believe it or not, kind of a light revving engine that had some good snap, but also mid and top end. We would play around with gearing quite a bit, but I would still rather have a great handling bike versus, a great motor. I remember back in some of my big amateur wins were in the stock class where, you're on a stock bike. And I just felt like even my lap times were even better on the stock bike versus a modified bike.
Wow.
Just able to ride that thing to its full potential with, 100% confidence. That was the key for me. I think back in my Cowie days, I talked about how my 96 Cowie was awesome. One of the best bikes I ever rode. And then 97 comes along and we're retesting and trying all kinds of different stuff and kind of went in a different direction, which I regret now. Like Imig won his 97 championship on his 96 bike. And I got caught up with, well, it's a 97. It must be better than the 96. Every year the bike should be progressing. And I wish I had the confidence to just say, no, I don't need to test. I'm riding my 96. I just didn't have the balls or confidence to tell the Japanese engineers or the team that, where Imig really, he just knew what he wanted. But Suspension. If the bike's not handling right and you're fighting it, you're not going to go fast. And I would probably just say suspension and just having everything in the perfect position. Clutch levers, brake lever, brake pedal, just everything. You can't be thinking about anything. Everything just needs to be, for me at least, just where I'm not even thinking about it. It just happens naturally. And that's when I was riding my best.
Wow. Back in the day, I know now guys have got mental coaches. They've got trainers like Alden Baker. There's so much. The Millsaps Training Club MX. There's a lot going on. Did your team provide a trainer for you, or was it just sort of, hey, we're going to leave you to your own devices and you do whatever you need to do to prepare. Just make sure you don't hurt yourself, kind of a deal?
Yeah, we had nothing. So for me, I always quietly put in all the work. You know, I kind of did my own thing. I rode a lot with Mike Kudrowski. We did a lot of training and riding together. But neither of us were really, you know, we just did the work. It wasn't bragged about, or there's no social media, no high dollar trainer involved. It was just us going riding out there in the desert sun, just suffering. And, you know, my form of training was like partial torture, you know, with riding in the middle of the day. You know, obviously I wasn't drinking enough water. I would torture myself. I never used the AC in the car. I had like a lotion phobia. I would never put any lotion on my hands. I just didn't want my hands to be soft at all. I mean, that was part of my secret training I did, but always, you know, putting in the motos, mountain biking, running, swimming, tennis. I just did a little bit of everything. I'm sorry, I got a phone call coming. You still see me?
Nope. I can still see you. I can still see you.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
No. That's what happens with this kind of stuff. No, that's interesting, you know, because it's just how things progress and how you guys were really just. It was the heyday of moto and supercross, you know. So the segue to that was, how was it living in pretty much the supreme time in the sport in the 90s? You know, how were you treated? Did you go to the grocery store at all and ever get somebody to be like, "Hey, Huffman, I need your autograph, man"?
Oh yeah, especially my hometown down in I lived in Santa Clarita. That area, it brought up a lot of, you know, Kudrowski came from there. Eric Kehoe used to live out there. I know I'm forgetting a lot of names, but I mean, on my second date with my wife, you know, I had a mom come up to me and, you know, at dinner and like, "Hey, my son would love your autograph." And my wife thought I paid this lady to come up and talk to me or something, you know, like as a setup. But that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I really, it was like just what I did is all I knew from the age of 5 years old. Literally, it was all I did. I never went to high school parties. I never got distracted by girls back then. I think I grew up rather sheltered. You know, it's always funny with my wife. "You've never seen this movie? You've never seen The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles?" I'm like, no. Never went to prom. It was doing laps on the track. That was my own little bubble I lived in, my world. I was a bit shy, probably a bit introverted. So putting on the helmet and just being in my own little world, that is what I loved. And it really, is what kept me focused and got me to where I ultimately ended up, in the sport.
Yeah, it's all the sacrifices. With that being said, did you ever started to get burnt out where you were found riding as not so much that release anymore, but more of like, man, this is work, because you didn't have anything to compare to, because you didn't go to prom. You didn't have some of the things that like a normal kid would have. So did that eat on you at all? And did you feel to the point where you're like, man, I don't want to ride today?
A little bit. Those days when I didn't feel like being at the track were probably days I just rode in the hills and, had fun with my buddies up in the hills and just play riding. That was a huge part of what I did too, just riding the hills, doing cliff jumps and just trying to make, a double jump out of two little hills or whatever. But trail riding, I always grew up riding in the desert and trail riding. But yes, at the end of my career, I was burnt out. I was burnt out on Supercross for sure. The grind of doing 11 or 12 races in a row, that's what really wore on me. The travel part, you never have a weekend where everything goes smooth, where your flight's on time, your rental car is ready, your hotel's nice, or, there's always someone, it sounds like they're moving furniture above you in your hotel room, or I don't know. That part wore on me big time. But I did 14 years in Supercross, and then with another 3 years of off-road racing. And the off-road part, I really loved. It was something new. The schedule was way more relaxed, and so were the people.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it's not just what happens at the track, it's all the other stuff involved. What do you think about this whole Super Motocross series where it's 31 races and it's just continuing going on, but yeah, the purse is a little bit bigger? Honestly, what do you think of it? Do you think it's too much racing, or?
Back in my prime, I would have been all for it. Definitely. I felt like even on some of my off weekends, occasionally I would do a local race, or I didn't really take a whole lot of time off my whole career with the European stuff. We used to go to Japan and stay, a couple of weeks over in Japan every year. Racing for that type of money, I would have been all in, all for it. Especially when I was young, there was no burnout factor. There was nothing going on. I wanted to race. I wanted to win. That I had the drive and desire to do that, but it kind of blows my mind the guys that choose to pass up the motocross donations or whatever because they want time off or whatever. Just knowing when you get older, when you look back on your career, you're going to feel like you could have done a little bit more here or there, or man, I'm 47 now. So when I look back, I had it made. I wish I would have even enjoyed it more, but you have to just take it. If there's an opportunity, you have to take it right now as you're young and racing dirt bikes, because it's not going to last forever.
It's interesting you say that. I've heard Chad Reed say the same thing, as now that he's older, that, man, looking back on it, the hard times really weren't that hard, and I could have done things a little bit differently. And that's kind of the part of growing up, where you have some regrets, things that you would have done a little bit differently. And if we all had a time machine, hell yeah, we'd want to talk to our older selves, because they would have some good insight, to tell you, stop being a pussy, just make it happen, man.
That's it. It's a small little window. You're out there in front of the crowd performing, and give it everything you have, and while you can do it, that's for sure.
Damon, how bad do you miss it?
Well,
or what do you miss about it?
Looking back on it, I had it so good. My job was to load up and go riding every day. And sometimes it was hard to do that. But looking at it now compared to what I do now for a living, I totally had it made. It's a dream job. It's tough. It's brutal. It can be painful, but I miss it now, but I'm like so far removed from it that I don't still have the thoughts like, oh, I can still do that, or, oh, I could beat those guys. Like, that's long gone. That's long gone. But I enjoy watching it. I follow every race. I like to, I look forward to watching or seeing how the track shapes up, or what track design they have. Most of the time I'm a little disappointed in the track, but I enjoy it. I'm a fan, and I've been back on the bike a little bit more lately. I have a couple new Yamahas I bought for me and the boys, and we've been riding a little bit, and it's been fun.
It's tough because, again, not to take away any of the spotlight, I was never as good as you. You were the epitome of like what I wanted to be professionally. And yeah, there's certain things that happen in my life, and I hated the sport. I hated everything because I felt like it took something from me, because my father died right around the time that I had my career-ending injury, and I had so much pent-up aggression towards the sport. Yeah. But now that I'm a little bit older and I've done some more therapy on the subject, I come to realize that really what I enjoyed about riding was I enjoyed the freedom that the mental meditation that riding a motorcycle gave you, where bills didn't matter, what was going on with my relationships in my family or with my wife or anything. It all faded away when I was just twisting the throttle, because you had to be in the present moment, because if you weren't in the present moment, you ended up on your head. And as much as I tried to get away from riding, it is really the only thing that I know that can just turn that snap as to being on the zone when you really just need a quick little pick-me-up. And I know there's a lot of riders that I've talked to that end their careers and they get on drugs and they go do certain stuff because it will get that same feeling back, but it's detrimental to their lives. And so for that reason, I feel like riding will probably always be a part of my life. And it looks as if in what I see from your social media, because you're a badass dude on a mountain bike, and it seems that you've found some certain outlets to keep that sort of meditation moving forward. Is that correct, or do you have anything to add to that, Damon?
You're totally correct, for sure. Stopping riding and doing something else is such a tricky transition. I mean, think about it. The motorcycle, all the adrenaline and everything you have going through you as you're flying, 50 feet through the air or even more, just feeling the acceleration, everything that creates inside of you to just cut it off and stop it. You're going to be miserable. We're adrenaline junkies and we don't even know it, because that's what really kept me going. It was so hard to stop, but then I went into a different career and I struggled. I struggled for a few years, but it was really mountain biking, getting back on a mountain bike and just pedaling, kind of getting back in decent shape. And now with the e-bike, once I got on the e-bike, I don't know, it is so much fun. Then it just kind of takes the little bit of suffering away that you do on a mountain bike. It just makes it a little more fun. And also the extra weight adds stability. I was just able to jump better. Like everything just clicked. Having that extra weight on an e-bike or a regular mountain bike for me. And I get a lot of flack. I hear little comments all the time and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about your opinion. I'm having more fun than you. And that I know that, and now I've been dabbling with some dirt bikes with the boys, and it's been a lot of fun. I've kind of had that father-son connection with my boys through mountain biking and doing trips and going all over. And I've kind of, it's my fault they haven't rode dirt bikes more. But, for a lot of people may not know, I'm living here in Idaho now, and we moved here for the freedom, to go. We can ride dirt bikes down the street if we want. We can go riding in the hills. We can, we're going up to the mountain for a little snowboarding later, but it just offers so much at a cheaper price. But the freedom, less people, schools, cost of living. There's a number of reasons that we moved here for something new, and we've been having a lot of fun.
Forgive me for asking this. The decision to retire, you said that you struggled a little bit. Was it something that you felt was you weren't ready to give up the boots, but you felt like it was time, and there's just stuff that you left that wasn't handled, and then perhaps maybe it because I know a lot of the riders kind of go through the same stuff where, again, that adrenaline and everything, it's a drug. They want to be in the spotlight. It's hard, and usually things are taken from you not at the best time. But if you don't mind elaborating on your story, on the reasons why retire, and again, you don't have to if you don't want to, Damon.
No, it's no problem. I stopped racing at the end of 2009. I would have done one more year. I was with the factory Kawasaki off-road team, but they literally had no off-road team in 2010. Economy.
Yeah.
I think they had to pay Villapoto a lot of money at that time, but I would have done one more year. The off-road schedule, it was beautiful. I was doing like 15 races a year. And there was a little less pressure, and I enjoyed the races. It was something totally new. But I think I was 33 at the time, 33, 34. So, I wasn't going to go do it on my own at that point. Just too risky. But for me, initially, it felt really good not to have to race or ride every day. I felt relieved. Hey, I'm in one piece. I'm still relatively healthy. So initially it felt good, but then you start to kind of miss it and then I went into, I'm a police officer now. I'm on a motorcycle now, but I was going into a field. I didn't really want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was shooting for, the fireman position, and I was just too old and that wasn't going to work. But for police work, being a little older and wiser or having more life experience is a good thing. So, like deep down inside, I did not want to go into this field, and I kind of felt like I had to and did it for the family. And I still struggle with that every day at work. I still don't like what I do. We have fun at times. It's a lot of fun, but we deal with a lot of shit. And so that wears on me. And I have to have some other distraction, or I have to be doing things. And that's where I went wrong early in my police work field. Was once I made it, I was like fully focused only on that, and I wasn't doing anything outside of work. And then I started to kind of spiral down the wrong way. But it was getting active, getting back on two wheels that really, I needed something else as a distraction,
an outlet.
But now I feel like I have a really good balance. I go riding a lot with my two boys, or we're always doing something, but it's cool to have dirt bikes included in that again.
Well, I commend you. And Damon, man, over the last couple of years, we know there's been some shit that's happened, and there's that saying that strong men create good times create weak men, and then weak men create bad times. And man, if there's anything to say about my generation, it's like we're fucked. And I am so sorry for some of the stuff that you've had to go through as being a police officer here recently in the last 24 months or so. So I commend you for trying to have leather skin. And there's something to be said, especially with nowadays where everyone has their 2 cents with social media or whatever. And, the comment you said about people giving you a hard time for having an e-bike, there's a fine line between love and hate. And typically the hate just comes from jealousy is basically it. Like, dude, I see some of the shit that you're doing on a mountain bike, and I'm like, man, could I even do that on a mountain bike? I don't know if I could, so there's a little bit of a jealousy there. So switching gears to a little bit more of a kind-hearted topic, you were right around the time when 2 strokes were merging to 4 strokes. Was that difficult to go to maintain or navigate? And then with the transition from 4 strokes to now potentially in the next decade going all electronic, do you think that's going to be positive for the sport, or do you think it's going to be detrimental because bikes are going to go from 10 grand to 18 grand and above?
For me, going to the 4-stroke was not that difficult. I remember the first time I rode one was 2001. I rode a 250F Yamaha, and it was like the easiest bike to ride ever. It was, I remember getting off the track thinking, it was easier to ride than a 125, but, and even the 450s they're just gnarly, so much power. It wasn't that difficult of a transition for me. I liked the feel of the power on a 4-stroke. Maybe the weight and just how heavy a 450 feels, just like coming into a corner, or maybe through the whoops, they were a bit more of a handful. But for just coming out of a corner and rolling it on and seat bouncing a little double or triple out of a corner, I mean, it was way easier than a 250 2-stroke. but I have no idea what the whole full electric bikes, how they're going to be. I'm not really sure. I don't know about that direction. One thing I miss, obviously the sound of a 2-stroke, and even with the 4-strokes, I don't understand why they restrict the noise of a 4-stroke so much in Supercross or motocross. I mean, when you go to the races, it's a bit too quiet for me. Maybe I don't hear that well, but you're not going to NASCAR or NHRA and, they're having to run, mufflers and reduce the sound on them. But I wish they just had a little more grunt they can hear throughout the stadium. I don't know why they make them run so quiet out there, but so electric is only going to be a lot worse in that regard.
I think to answer your question, if I'm being biased, I think it's called ultra sensitivity. We live in a world of cancel culture now, and people are oversensitive on so many things. I agree with you. I love 2-strokes. I'm not as good as riding them because I like to ride around in like 4th gear, and it's hard to ride around in 4th gear on a 2-stroke. The last time I rode a 125, I was like, holy crap, you have to shift this thing.
Yeah. Shift a lot, man.
Yeah. It was weird. You couldn't roll into a corner in 3rd gear, and then just feather the clutch to get out. I don't know how the transition is going to happen. It just, in my opinion, it seems like the natural evolution of the sport, and I hope it comes in a form of somehow being a little bit cheaper. Like, I was the guy that didn't have a factory mechanic, Damon, and so it was always my dad and I have like PTSD over working on my own shit because my dad always worked on the stuff, and when things broke, I didn't really know how to fix them. And so after my father died and I started getting back into riding, I was like, oh shit, I started sending my bike to the bike shop 1,000% of the time because I really didn't even trust myself changing a chain. And with the evolution of e-bikes, I feel like it's just less movement. There's no more cams, there's no more piston, so it would be more of a rider error than a mechanical error, because most of my injuries have come from something mechanical, and that's why I'm kind of stoked for the e-bikes. But maybe that's just a personal preference.
Yeah, I've never ridden one. I think it is pretty fascinating how you can have a little onboard computer and be like, okay, I want this e-bike to run like a 125 or a 500, or, detune it and make it run like a 100 or something. That's really fascinating. But we'll see. Who knows if that's really the direction? We'll wait and see.
You look like you're not too happy if that's the direction it goes.
I'm just kind of baffled by it in a way, but it probably is the future. Well, I don't know yet. I can't see it yet, but it probably is coming.
Your boys. So
yeah.
Are they wanting to follow in your footsteps at all? It seems like you guys have been doing more mountain biking together, but do they enjoy dirt bikes as much as you, or how does that work?
Well, this is really the first time they've had really their own bikes right now. So I'm like glancing over at them right now. They're fun to look at, but it's my fault that they didn't ride more when they're younger. It was a combination of my career ending, being burnt out. Then we moved we lived at the beach, and then I started my new career. So like I was done with dirt bikes for many years because, well, I didn't want to ride them. I've seen the real ugly side of the sport where people have, been paralyzed and killed and all kinds of things on dirt bikes. So I knew I didn't want to go down that road with racing. So we kind of got into the bicycle thing, but they've always ridden like little quads, when they're in Boy Scouts, and we do Boy Scout trips, quads and 50s and little mini bikes. They rode a little Honda 150 for a little while, but I told them, hey, if we move to Idaho, we're getting dirt bikes. So they're like, okay. So this is their first time. My oldest son, who's 17, he's 6'2".
Wow.
Plays basketball, and so they're all on big bikes right now. And my younger son just turned 16, and he's like 5'10". So we have some 250Fs. My daughter, she's 12, but it's been fun. But especially my younger one, I'm literally teaching them how to let the clutch out. I'm thinking, I'm a bad dad. He doesn't even know how to let the clutch out properly. What have I been doing all these years? And my oldest is picking it up really quick, and I'm just helping him. I had him doing some figure 8 drills and just cornering and working the clutch a little better. He likes to turn with, his butt's way back by the rear fender. I'm like, no, come on. So it's a combination of they need more seat time and slowly giving them, some riding tips. But it's been a lot of fun. Then I'll jump on the bike. All right, here's how you do it. And it's just so easy for me. But I think I blow their minds a lot with either jumping a mountain bike or jumping a dirt bike. It's kind of funny.
Well, it's in their genes. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had an accelerated scale of learning curve just because of, their last name being Huffman. And truth be told, it's got a lot to say with what kind of a teacher you have. And so if they do decide to do a little bit more with dirt bikes or something, dude, look at the teacher that they have. You can teach them to do it right as opposed to do it wrong. And man, I hear you, Damon. I was, when I found out that I was having a little girl, I was like really upset at first because I was going, I don't know how to deal with a little girl, I want to have a little boy so that we can go do this stuff. And then, there's that saying that God gives you what you need. And I had this little girl, and man, I am fucked because she's just this little adrenaline junkie. And I see her on her little Strider and stuff, and I'm just going, man, I've been wanting her to stay away from dirt bikes because I've had a really bad experience with dirt bikes. It's to each their own. Everyone has different beliefs because of their experiences. And my experiences with dirt bikes have been really nothing but just pain and agony. And that's unfortunate, but I don't need to put that on to other people. And so I've been trying to change my way of thinking and how I've being perceived, especially on the internet with some stuff. And so my little girl, I've come to the conclusion if she wants to do it, hell yeah, we'll go do it. And we'll go have fun at it. But my own reservations is I don't want her to end up like her dad. And so I'm super nervous about the whole thing. So this whole parenting thing, man, it's crazy. But I'm happy that you were finding the commonality with your boys there. And dude,
yeah,
how cool for them to see how talented their dad is and to be like, Dad, how do you do this? And then you just like, oh, it's real easy. Elbows up, just one finger on the clutch and we just go.
Yep.
What does your future look like? What are you hoping? I know you've got a couple YouTube channels and you've been uploading a lot of mountain bike stuff, but where could we find you, Damon? And what does the future look like for the Huffman Bros?
Yeah, so my boys have a little channel they do. It's mainly my oldest son, Max, and that's Huffman Bros. a lot of mountain bike stuff. He does a lot of little YouTube short videos, and we'll be doing a lot more when, once we get out of winter here in Idaho. But then my channel is just, Damon Huffman, Damon Huffman channel. You can pull that up, and yeah, it's mainly been a lot of mountain bike stuff. I use it just to promote. I got Intense mountain bikes that they help me out a little bit, and Tasco riding gear, and Fly has given me some helmets and pads and things like that. And you move to Idaho, you got to start wearing Fly motocross gear, right?
Yep, exactly.
So they're helping me. They help me out with, getting the boys all set up and myself. But it's mainly just been for fun. I think, we haven't had regular TV in like a decade. It's always been, whatever we watch on YouTube. And part of me was like, I can make a better video than this, or I can jump better than that. And then we started just messing around. Then I was using it just to promote and try to get a little help with some bikes and things like that. And I do it because it's fun, and to promote a few companies that help us out that we, really appreciate. And I had a little company, Pelly Bike Wash, is like, hey, we'll send you a case of cleaning products. Do you mind, promoting us? And sure. Okay. So we have little things like that we like to work on and do. But I'm looking forward to spring and summertime here in Idaho to do more mountain biking.
Hell yeah.
And
Hell yeah.
riding.
Well, dude, you've already got a couple more subscribers with my channels. And everybody that's watching this, make sure I've got both the links in the description that you check them out. Damon's better at editing than I am. And so he's not just good on a dirt bike or a mountain bike. He's good behind the computer as well. So, Damon, I do want to say thank you so much for willing to speak with me, especially after I tried to scam you out of some money.
Yeah.
I know it's sort of a trend at the end of my videos to brop. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Sure.
All right. Well, until next time, guys, I appreciate it. We're going to have more videos. Make sure you stick around at Friday, noon Pacific time. We've got another episode of The Shit Show where we're talking about the upcoming race here. And as always, keep it WFO. Bravo!
Triple jump.